Well, it looks like we got some folks joining us today. Can everybody hear me okay? Because Quinn, I'll let you be our pilot for today. Okay, sounds good. With today's environment, it always helps to ask first. My name is Randy Laudermilk. I'm Director of Business Development. And as you heard before, Quinn Hopkins, he's also here today as our marketing lead and helping put things together. And we also have David Guthe, our Director of Operations. He will be kind of going over the technical aspects of the features we want to highlight today in terms of the reporting and the RTF formats. So just kind of go over the agenda real quick. We've done introductions. A couple of things we wanted to point out today was first, we've been working on our channel partner framework for about a year and a half now, and get the framework done, some other milestones done as well. But just to give you a quick overview in terms of this quarter's progress, we've been working on the actual portal itself to onboard our reseller and referral channel partners, and trying to get the nuts and bolts of that portal put together and all the back-end integrations and content and things like that. So we'll go over that just briefly. But to highlight sort of the general flow of the training, we want to talk about some of the new reporting capability we've got as of version 9.9 that was released last week, and specifically the new RTF formats that we have available in that release. And then we'll kind of go through, wrap up, and if you got any questions along the way, feel free to ask, and we'll make sure we try to address those during the talk. So, for those who may be reasonably new to Saint, I see some folks on the list that we've known for quite a while, and has different partners and customers over the years. But just to kind of give you a quick overview of who Saint is, we've been around for at least 25 years in this industry. Saint was derived from one of the very first vulnerability scanners on the planet, actually, and so it's got quite a history. Some of the things that we've kind of been first to market on, some may know, we were the very first vulnerability scanner to have a fully integrated scanning and penetration testing capability, the very first cloud-based scanner, first to provide support for IPv6. We went through some initial work with National Institute of Standards and Technologies way back in the day, and we're first to be able to support their SCAP programs version 1.2 compliance standards. Some other type of things here more recently, deploying scan solutions on AWS, one specifically highlighting, we have one that's what we call the Guthe license. It's a pre-configured license. It's basically, spin it up, scan, turn it off, and it's hooked to the AWS billing service. So there's no predefined license and annual subscription commitments. It's fully integrated in the back end with AWS's billing service. So we were the first to deploy that, and actually right now we may still be the only comprehensive vulnerability scanning solution that provides that. Vulnerability scanner that powers the MSP and MSSP market of any scale. We've got some small MSPs that have grown with us over the years and become quite large, and then some others that are already large that see the value in partnering with us, and we were happy to onboard them over the course of the year. The graphic at the bottom just kind of highlights some of those sort of validations of some of the programs, particularly the payment card industry, and of course our partnerships with AWS, as well as our partners over at CIS. So kind of the first thing we wanted to talk about today was the channel partner program. As we talked about earlier, as you see in this graphic, the very first place we wanted to start with was just looking at how our relationships were with our channel programs, and in terms of what's working, what isn't, what can we do better to be a good steward of that program. And so that graphic is just kind of an illustration of some of the things that we wanted to address in this new framework. And so over the course of 19, we focused primarily on building that framework and validating with some of our partners, as well as really looking at our products and product additions, deployment options, pricing models, and things like that. And so over the course of this year, getting that refined and ready for this portal. So in this quarter, we've really been focusing more on the technical aspects of the initial operating capability of that portal software. And so that way the partners experience as you get onboarded, have it ready, available, accessibility to all the content, to be able to do, lead generation and management, things like that, and work with, specifically, different partners and things like that, and in terms of content and training and availability of the workflows that we have as partnerships to be able to facilitate, helping you grow. So most of that work is slated for the initial capability by the end of this calendar year. So we're well into Q4s. In the next few weeks, we'll be refining that and get the first capability deployed. And as the bullet talks, we're going to look at, once we get that initial capability up, what can we do to enhance that, work with our partners in terms of, future capabilities, or, really making this thing robust and be able to scale as your needs scale with us as well. So a lot of this we've kind of already highlighted, but the onboarding process, especially content to promote you as a partner, that's kind of that onboarding process to not only give you accessibility to that portal, but also, how we collect information and maintain, your presence and our marketing and our web presence, social media, things like that, and really promoting our partnership. Obviously, deal registrations and managing opportunities and working with dedicated account rep in terms of how you facilitate that workflow, as well as marketing content, marketing templates, things like that, accessibility to demo software, training content. And so we really want to take a look at how we could move that stuff from more of a smaller echelon kind of a program to make it really robust and make it accessible to you as you need that. So second part of our topic today is to talk about the capabilities in version 9.9. As you see here, one of the biggest focus areas is on reporting and analytics. It's one thing to be able to provide a robust scanner, but whether you're a managed service provider or trying to use this internal to your program, get that information out in a way that makes most sense to you and your customers or your internal teams. It's what's vitally important. Raw data is practically useless unless you can transform it into something that becomes informational and you can take tangible actions with. So one of the things that we looked at was not just the standard, PDF formats and XMLs and CSVs and some of the back-end data, transmission formats, but also in terms of how you can take that information out into a local environment and really customize it, in a more robust way to customize it for your needs. So that's really where RTF and particularly in a Microsoft environment really becomes more important. And so with that's what we wanted to focus this particular training session on. And so I'd like to turn the presentation over to David Guthe, as I said, Director of Operations, and he'll walk you through that capability. And, as you see things that you have questions on, feel free to, to provide your information in comments, and we'll try to address your questions. David?
David, I think you might be muted.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yep, all good.
Okay, sorry about that. After the thousands of demos I've done, I'm still getting muted sometimes. So I have a particular set of scan that I'm looking at of our test subnet. And I want to focus on reporting today. So one of the things that we can look at is choosing columns to see, what do you want in your vulnerability list columns. And I've chosen the IP address, the host name, system type, severity level, also exploit and CVSS score. But we also can bring in facts from, say, what node you're using, whether it's a PCI compliant, the comment that goes with that, whether there's a dispute going on with that, but also the AWS regions, AWS instance IDs, instance name, VPCs IDs. And then also you'll see down here location and business unit and compliance, and those are being pulled in from our asset tags. So the custom asset tags that you bring in um, can also be populated in the report. So when I click OK, I have my column set up here. And just to get a quick report out, I could do a CSV for an export through CSV format, XML. We also export to Cisco Firesight and Splunk. And then we do have a report. I can generate a report, which is our default full scan report. And I can put that out into a PDF, HTML, comma separated, XML, which a lot of our partners are using. But we also have a new RTF format that I'll be demoing today. And then tab separated. So I'm going to leave this just in HTML for now. And this is our default report that a lot of you have seen before. And you'll notice that we have an asset tag filter that I had set up, and it brings up I've selected VMware 6.7 and 5.5 for this particular report. And so the default columns that I had selected are coming up with the IP address, host name, etc., but also my exploits and the CVSS base score 2, version 2. So the nice thing about so the next thing I can go over is I can draw that into a PDF format, or now use a RTF format and submit that. And I want to open that with Word. And I can bring that across. So the really nice thing about our new format here is it's very easy to edit. So finally we can have, I can go off and pull in another logo. I'll go to Carson Saint. And I can now just copy that image, bring up my report, and it's very easy now just to delete that and do a paste in there. And put that out. I can make this the size that I want, and it retains that uh, the same reference for that. And then over here, I'll just edit this. And now I have my Carson Say analysis report. And good thing is I can put that out, save as a PDF, and I'll put that out into my training here, and put that out into a PDF report, and save it. And now it's going to draw that report. And it just takes a few minutes. So now I have that saved as a PDF. And now I have that report, analysis report here. So a very quick way to make those changes. And then another issue that people have always had with saying maybe they want to have a different severity classification versus our normal critical areas of concern and potential issues. Now, if I wanted to change this, it's very easy to copy that, do a find and replace, and instead of critical, I'm going to put high and replace all. So I made my 6 replacements. So very quick to do that, and then save those, and then do the same thing for my areas of concern and put that out as a medium. So again, it's very quick, very easy to find and replace all of those, and then save those, and save you a substantial amount of time when you're doing your reporting. As well as changing any of the graphics here, removing them, and being able to format this in the way that you like. So other ways that we can, for your reporting, if you have your asset tags set up, I can go look at managing my assets, and maybe I want to clear my asset filter here and see all of my targets. And being able to, for my Windows server here, now I want to do some additional asset tags. I can do my what the location is, and tie that with what the business unit is. Say it's engineering, and then also I could put in the compliance for that, and say that's maybe it's tied to PCI, and save that. Now I can go back to, now that I have those tagged, I can go into my scan reports, go down to my full scan, and I want to put this out into in HTML, and I want to add my asset tag charts, say for a bar chart. Then I can keep all those the same, and then if I go into advanced options, I have my tag options, and I want to just exclude these two. I'll have my host name, uh, and I'll add my business. So now I want my location, business, and compliance unit. And when I click finish, that's going to add those tags that I was looking for. So now now I have my location tag. I know I have a remote office in Tampa, Dallas, and HQ, and they were tagged for my units here. Again, different ways that you can use work with our reporting. And then if I can, when I go back to reports themselves, if I wanted to send this off into any of the, say, my RTF format here, I can email that directly to a recipient once I finished it. So another way that other features that we could combine to get your reports out. So thank you very much. That is my portion on quick the kind of the new reporting RTF format that we've had. Any questions that we have?
See, Quinn, do you see any questions on? I don't have visibility of that on my end.
No, I don't see any questions right now.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll take a few
Right.
seconds if somebody has an opportunity to put a question in. Just want to make sure we're getting everything answered.
We
I have
got
a
one
quick
from
question.
Mike.
I wonder if you. Oh, go ahead, sir.
Oh, sorry about that.
No
You
worries.
go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I was going to have a quick question about whether it would be possible to create a custom report to satisfy the reporting requirements for a FedRAMP vulnerability scan. And that's typically using CVSS v3 score and including a bunch of information on, the recommendations for remediation, description of kind of the risk involved, something that would be a little easier for customers to submit as part of their continuous monitoring process.
Right.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I know the answer is yes, but I'd kind of like to see if there's some time to maybe walk through some of the steps to get that created.
Certainly. Let me share my screen again. So how I would do that is I can go back into my results here, and I can again choose columns, and I'm instead of using my CVSS version 2, I'll drop in my version 3 score here. And take that out. And that would give me a default report. But also, I can go into the scan report types and take out some of the other extraneous information, say for using our full scan report. I'm going to tie in your, I believe you are looking more for the description, but instead of our CVSS base 2, I can put in my base 3 score, as well as the next. If we wanted to take that a step further, we could put in our version 3 base vectors. And then for my next column, maybe I wanted to put in the, I want to pull from our tutorials and go in and take a look at the technical details on why that vulnerability was kicked off, because we have separated our tutorials now with the impact, the background, the resolution, technical details, and references, as well as the regions, census IDs for your AWS instances. And then we can let them know when it was first detected and also last detected. So I'll go in and I'll add my tutorial technical details in there. Click next. I'm just going to go through and save this as say CVS v3. And FedRAMP. And when I click finish, it's going to draw that report, as well as saving that template that I can apply to other customers. So here I have my the CVS base 3 score and the tutorial details on why that vulnerability was kicked off. Does that answer your question, Matt?
Yes, that's great. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
And then it looks like we have 2 more questions. One from Mike asking if we can go through the asset tags once more.
Certainly. So we have our asset tags set up. Let's see, we'll go to assets. And if I wanted to assign a certain tag to, say, different servers, I could go through and use an asset filter, look for the servers that I wanted to um, tag or to see, um, and I'll choose those three um, for now. Click OK. So I should be able to, that should draw just the ones that I'm looking at. And I can go through and edit these. So I'm going to tag this with, I did create these custom ones for location for HQ, and I'm going to tag that with that. Also, we have a host name, I'm sorry, business unit, and I can tag that, say, to corporate, and compliance, and I'll tag that with, say, my HIPAA tag, and save that, and it's applied to those. If I wanted to edit this further, I can go in, say, look at the this one here, and I can add a new string. So say I want to put in, say, risk, and I want to put in high, medium, and low. Save that. It's going to add those tags to that particular one, and I want to put that, I can just edit these directly and say I just want the high one. And then down here, I'll go into edit this one again, and since I have a new field here that I just put in for risk, I'll put that in as a high one also. And those are saved. And then I can pull all these tags when I create my reports. I'll go into my scan report types, and it's going to just draw the ones for those for that I just chose. Again, I'll use my full scan report, and I want to add tags to my report this time. Put that out into an HTML, and asset tags, I'm going to put in a table for that, and a bar chart. Go down to my lists, and now for my host list columns, I should have tags here that I can look at or add. And here's my asset tags. And then have my just the same, the normal reports, and I'll just put in tagged so I can use it later. And when I click finish, it's going to draw that report. And so now this shows you that I've picked up these servers here. And the graphics that we've seen before, but now we have an OS class for Windows, the OS type, the host names. Now I have my business unit, locations, also what compliance they are, and the risk. And that is brought all together here for my, for location, business unit, compliance, and risk up in the host list columns. So that's another way that we can tag those. So so I think we have, we also have the AWS, I'm sorry. We were talking, there's a question in here about FedRAMP for our CIS benchmarks and SCAP program. So let me show you some of the reports that we have for those. So this is a different compliance set. So instead of having our test subnet, I do have my XCCDF scan for a particular server. And just to take a look through a a full scan report, just so you can see the difference on what how they come out. Click finish. Again, that was 2 steps to get that information out. Nothing very, I should have skipped all the graphics. There's nothing very exciting there. And although, so since I did have an asset filter on there and they weren't, which is a global setting, it didn't show up. So that's why that didn't show up. So now that I cleared my asset filters, I should be able to get a real scan out, or a real report. So next I'll look at my full scan, and I'm going to drop the all the all the charts. Make sure there's nothing else. Click next, and then I'm just going to click finish, and that's going to show you the information that came back from that scan, and for the oval checks on the potential issues, and that's just our default checks. And now I want to go into the benchmark reports that we have for this. So you can download all of those all at one time and just save those reports as a TGZ file, and you can open that with WinZip 7 or Win7. But also under actions, like we have a human readable one and an XCCDF detail, as well as a XML format and an ARF format. So when I go into oval results, this is just the human readable one. It gives us the information on the interfaces and the OS that we found, the operating system, and then it just goes in and it shows you the particular control that is true or false. So not a very interesting report there, but the one that I really like is this one here. For that report, we have a pass, and I can go through and gives us the results on what the passes are, and then the reference IDs are hyperlinked. But the fail is really the powerful one here, where I can go in and see why that failed. So if I click on this, it expands and tells me, what the control is and then what the result was. But if I look for further down, I can see exactly where that that registry key is that we're looking for, to see whether it's true or false. So that's really, I think, the power of these reports. So let's see, anything so any other questions?
We had one from Bob that I think Randy was getting to over text, but he said stipulating a system comprises components like servers, desktops, laptops, multifunction printers, etc. Can all these components be grouped to provide a system vulnerability scan report?
Yes, they can. Yeah, we do have a report format for that. So not only, so that would be under scan report types. So probably one of the summaries. But we also have compliance standards for your other ones. For say, if you ran a HIPAA scan, we have a HIPAA report that goes with it, and gives you a blurb at the top on what that report standard is and why and what we're specifically scanning for. So other compliance scans that we can document.
David, I think in one question, we we're talking about FedRAMP and talking about SCAP. Just to kind of go along with some of the reporting capability that's built into the Saints standard report, you'll see it at the end of the report, you'll see under benchmark reports, there we go. And so a lot of these report types are prescribed by the NIST program. It's kind of derivative from the cyberscope reporting formats and SCAP's standards. And so you'll get, so these reports are auto-generated when you create SCAP content. So if you do a configuration benchmark, or you do, let's see, some of the others, the oval vulnerability scans. I think there's 4 different types of oval scans: inventory, vulnerability,
Compliance. Yes.
there's several others.
Mhm.
So when you run anything related to the oval content or the configuration content, it's XCCDF formatted, but that's the XML based format that's common to that standard, which is basically irrelevant other than if you want to look into the raw data. But the big benefit there is those reports are auto-generated whenever you run a configuration scan or you run one of these patch inventory or compliance standards or the vulnerability scan using one of these benchmarks. And they're set up that way because that way it saves you time creating the prescriptive reports required by that standard. Now, when it comes to FedRAMP specifically, I don't know how those correlate to a FedRAMP specific standard. FedRAMP is so specific to some of the more cloud specific requirements. I do know that in terms of those platforms, like I talked in one of the notes, the CIS benchmark is one of the biggest ones used related to the Linux 2 format. So many people that deploy that particular version of Linux on AWS's formats or their platform. So that configuration-based benchmark is available, directly through the product. And so a lot of these benchmarks that you'll see when you go through the workflow, there's a benchmark category. I mean, the platform itself will say Linux 2, but there might be different profiles. So like for Windows 12 or Windows 16, whatever. And so when you're running the scan, there might be prescriptive formats in terms of which profile are expected of you to meet that particular compliance area or your reporting mandate. But by doing that, you'll see the workflow here, you'll see the list there. But rather than trying to keep track of every single update that they do, we don't automatically bundle every profile within the software every update cycle. So you'll notice that for each line item, there's a download content button. So it's like Dave is illustrating here, if you need the most current benchmark for, say, Windows 16, you just click on the update, the download content, and it will go out to the CIS or the NIST site or MITRE or wherever, whoever's maintaining that particular version of the content, and automatically update your content with the most current benchmark. And so we really recommend that you do that on an ongoing basis whenever you're needed to run these types of prescriptive scans, because that content does change. And so just because you ran one, say 6 months ago for reporting mandate doesn't mean that you've got the current benchmark. So that download option is just a way to make sure that you maintain currency before you run your benchmark scan.
Thank you, Randy. Excellent. Any other questions that we can go over now?
I think that's it for questions in the chat, but if anybody has any last minute questions, we'd be happy to hear them.
Okay, I think it wraps things up. I don't see any more questions. I guess before we wrap up, David, Quinn, do you have anything else to add?
Well, I think the new RTF format is really exciting. I've been waiting for that for a long time. So I think that's going to make your reporting a lot easier going forward.
Oh, there was one question I did see in the chat before we break. Matt, appreciate that link. He was providing a link over to some of the FedRAMP POEM templates. There was a question about can you edit and update the benchmarks? Yes, many of these benchmarks, the configuration benchmarks specifically, if you have a configuration benchmark that you've downloaded from a site, I mean, there are other locations that provide configuration benchmarks other than NIST and CIS. And so one way that you can do that is there is an import feature that you can import your own baseline and your own benchmark. So that's one way to do it. So if you find there's a platform that you need to support and we don't have a, one already available, in the platform, providing it's in the oval or XCCDF format that we can digest, then yes, you can import that in. Another way to do it, as Dave's showing here, is a policy editor. When you look at these benchmarks through the policy editor, some of these are basically set and are not editable, but you'll notice see, let me try to catch up with David. But you'll look at these benchmarks, and many of them you can edit the specific benchmark definition. So in this case, there's an actual rule about about an account share, and then there's a registry key value, I suspect. And it gives you information about the actual configuration, the description, and the value itself. So you can set that value to create custom benchmarks using this policy editor, and then save that out as a custom benchmark. And so when you're running your normal scans, rather than having to run the SCAP prescribed or the CIS prescribed benchmark, you can use the editor to create your own. And then when you're setting up your vulnerability scan, you'll just select that custom benchmark as your option when you're getting ready to run the configuration scan.
Okay. Well, I have nothing else at this time. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I appreciate it. Quinn, I'll pass it back to you.
Okay. So that concludes the demo, and we were happy to answer your questions. And if, as always, if you have other questions or as you go through some of these things, need some more information, please reach out to us. I know the online documentation is fairly comprehensive, but at the same time, there's always going to be cases where you run into something specific that you need a little bit more help. So just please feel free to reach out to us. And we appreciate your time today.